Today is March 7th, and we are at the Barton Library interviewing Mr. Terry Wong. My name is Antu Deng.
My name is Anchi.
And now we shall begin the interview. And so to start the interview, can you tell me where and when were you born?
Born here October 5th, 73 in Houston, Texas at St. Joseph's, I think.
Okay. And so, how would you describe the household you grew up in?
From what I remember, pretty normal, I guess, for the beginning, anyways. And then our parents divorced, so we moved a little bit. For a little while, we lived with our grandparents. Then after that, lived with our dad until I think seventh grade, I think, if I remember right. Then moved in, well, when I was in 8th grade, we moved back with my mom. And then from then on.
Mm-hmm. And so you and your brother are now co-owning a restaurant. So can you tell us a little bit about how your relationship with your brother was during your earlier years? So were you two always close?
I don't know about close. My little brother was kind of a loner, actually, back then, a lot. I was into sports. Basically all during my younger years. So I basically hung out with, my other sports fanatic friends. And my brother was more of a loner, but he was into music and he liked sports too. So I mean, I guess from that aspect, we did play sports together, listen to music together, but it's, we weren't like, inseparable like some siblings, you know what I mean? So.
And so from what we know, your father is from Tennessee, which is famous for barbecue, and your mother is from Taiwan.
Yep.
So there must be a lot of fusion in your home.
Yes,
cooking.
Very.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about that? What's your favorite dish or anything you remember?
I mean, I consider us lucky because, our father's half Caucasian and half Chinese, and then my mom is Chinese. So, we get, if you're a foodie, you get like country, comfort food. And then if you like Chinese food, obviously, we have that. So my dad's side is kind of Cantonese style because my dad's Toisan, and then my mom's from Taiwan. So delicious food.
Yeah. And so with all the food background like that, how did you come to start with Blood Bros Barbecue?
It started, my brother and I own a karaoke bar called Glitter. That we actually started back in 99, 2000 in Chinatown. And we did that for 5 years. And we took a little bit of a hiatus, reopened in Midtown, which is where it is presently. And we did a steak night with our buddy Kui. And basically, Kui loved to grill and kind of started messing around with barbecue. So he brought some over to our steak night, and we kind of, Robbie and I, my brother and I, do customer appreciation parties. So whenever we do that, we cook all this big, all this food, invite the customers, and, they have our food. So when we started messing around with barbecue, we did that. We added in some barbecue with our, other stuff, and the customers loved it. So we started messing around with it more, and our friend Chris Shepard invited us to his restaurant to do a barbecue. So we did that, and it was very, very well received. And that's really kind of what really got us into considering doing it more often. Because at that point, we weren't even doing it like once a month, I don't think, at that point. After that, we started, people started asking us, hey, can you do events for us, or trying to order the food. So that's when it kind of became at least a monthly thing, sometimes twice a month. Because at that time, we just didn't have time. It was more of a getaway from our regular grind.
And so, since you mentioned Pluto Karaoke, is it still in business?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, when you first started Blood Rose Barbecue, did you receive any support from your parents and your friends, your community?
Oh yeah, definitely. From that aspect, we're very fortunate for most. From the get-go, our customers from Glitter, our friends in the restaurant business, they supported us. So we're honestly, we're a lot luckier than most people that start any, a food thing.
Yeah.
We're very lucky.
And so how would you describe working with a family member?
Well, I mean, I'm used to it because I've worked with my little brother for 20 years. So, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know if you guys have siblings, there's pros and there's cons. So you're not always gonna get along, but I think there's some of the pros are, at least with me, I mean, everybody's different, but at least with my brother, I mean, I never have any trust issues. At the end of the day, I don't worry. It's just that in between business time, maybe we'll butt heads or whatever, but that's anybody. That's kind of the same thing with Kui, I mean, he's like our brother, even though we're not blood, even working with him, anybody, as much hours in a week, you're going to, somebody's in a bad mood one day, or maybe you don't like their tone of voice, or, misunderstandings, you just have to, let it fall off.
And how would you describe your role at managing the restaurant?
That's kind of hard. I guess I can describe it as everything else. Okay, so Kui does all the meats, right? And Robbie does all the sides in the kitchen, and kind of Robbie basically manages the whole kitchen. And a lot of the social media. Robbie's a graphic designer, which is obviously helpful. If we ever need a menu, my brother designs it. If we ever need something on Instagram or whatever, Robbie can do it. So that's obviously, great help.
So would you say you're like a storefront manager?
Yeah. I'm the guy that deals with the customers, the phones, the caterings, and I guess the networking promotions part of it.
And so what would you say is the thing that sets the restaurant apart from the competition out there?
I would like to think the food is good. I mean, I'm a little biased. Okay, I'm a lot biased. I think our food is good, but we kind of take the same approach just like we do in the bar business. Like in the bar business, there's 1 million bars in Houston, in the world, in Taiwan, in China, in Vietnam, wherever. There's 1 million bars. You can get a drink anywhere. So why do people want to go to your place? It's the service, right? So I look, Robbie and I tell our staff the same thing, okay? It helps if our food is good, if the food quality is good, but at the end of the day, it's a service, There's good barbecue. Houston just got, what is it? Most popular food destination in I don't know if the world, but in America. I mean, so there's obviously no shortage of good food in Houston. So.
And so, what vision do you have for your restaurant?
Um, that's a tough one. We've gotten so much publicity that I don't even know what to kind of strive for. I mean, being in the Smithsonian is probably the pinnacle, and the New York Times. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sound arrogant either, like I'm not grateful, because of course we are. But yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, do you imagine where your restaurant will be in 5 years?
You know, we talk about that often because we're very lucky. We have a lot of interested parties offering us to come, you know, expand to their shopping center or do something in another state or whatever. But we're, I mean, we're just really new right now, so we're just concentrating on, you know, the Bel Air area right now. You know, maybe 5 years down the line, you know, maybe, but we just want to, you know, concentrate on one right now and be the best we can be.
And so with your experience at the karaoke, how is it helping you with the restaurant?
Like presently, presently, I mean, probably not helping us, but I definitely feel like Glitter Karaoke was a vehicle to get to this point, which I can tell you, all three of us are super grateful, immensely grateful, because, you know, obviously, if we didn't have glitter and do a steak night, and then my brother and I did chef pop-ups, none of this would even exist. So very important.
Yeah. And so, as a restaurant owner, how would you describe Houston food scene?
I love our food scene. You know, I'm sure my brother told you. I mean, we grew up in Alief, which is basically Chinatown.
Yeah.
So, and we discussed, you know, coming up here that, you know, it's very important to me because that's where we're from. Not just the food. We just grew up in that area, literally. So, very important to us.
And so, did you face any like difficulties while managing the restaurant? I'm sure you have.
Oh, tons. Tons at the restaurant, tons at the bar. We went through the same thing that basically any, I'm not even going to say restaurant, any person that's does a brand new construction business. I mean, you have all these permits that you have to do. Everything has to be on a time schedule. And when you're dealing with city and the permits and monies, it's just it basically is never on time. Let's just put it that way. There's always delays. We had Harvey to deal with, Hurricane Harvey. That put a delay on us. Not as bad as a lot of people, but it definitely was a delay.
And so, how has the food scene, in your opinion, especially the barbecue food scene, more specifically in Houston, changed over time?
A lot. So when we first got into barbecue, I guess it's six to 7 years ago is when we started. That's when it was just barely starting to have a scene. Of course, that's not the case now. Now, I mean, it's Houston. It has a lot of great barbecue, and it's right alongside. I mean, comparable to Austin and Lockhart, which are the barbecue capitals. But I feel like Houston is just right there.
So how do you see the different neighborhoods involved, like the way they come together? I believe your cuisine is a fusion. For example, how do you see that the fusion become a thing in Houston?
think that's more of a result of food globally, and then of course nationally here in America. And we get to thank Food Network and YouTube and all that stuff for all that, because there's so many chefs out there that want to do something different, so that's kind of like us. I mean, even before we started even considering food, we were in the bar business. So when we started the bar, I didn't want to be just like every other karaoke bar, because that's boring. Being the same is boring. People get bored, because like I said, there's plenty of bars. So why do people want to come to your bar? We have to do something different, So that's why I wanted to do a steak night, because a lot of bars, most bars now, of course, but 7 years ago, that's kind of when steak night kind of took off, at least here locally. I'm not saying nationally. So, we wanted to do that. And then we're like, you know what? Let's try, chef pop-ups, because we had a lot of chef friends. So I asked them, what do I have to lose? They say no. Who cares? At least I asked, right? Well, I mean, I asked and they said sure. So that's how it began. And we've had some pretty famous chefs that did pop-ups at our bar. So it's pretty cool. Very cool.
Did you have many innovations during this process?
Definitely. I mean, that's really having all those chefs, in my opinion, is kind of like what kindled our interest more in cooking, because we always loved cooking. I mean, we moved out very early, so if you move out, you don't have mom's cooking. So unless you want peanut butter and jelly every day, you got to learn how to cook, right? So that's what we did. But when you get to watch, chefs, oh, that's how they do it, or that's how they do this, you're like, oh, that's pretty interesting, So that had a lot to do with it.
These chefs from same cuisine or different?
Oh, all over. I mean, we had sushi chefs, but the good thing about our pop-ups is that's what makes it fun, because when a chef is at their workplace, they have to do what the restaurant's menu is. Why they have so much fun at their pop-up is they get to cook whatever they want. You know what I mean? So they can do a bulgogi, French fry, whatever. They can't do that at a restaurant. If they work at a sushi bar, they can't do that. They have to do, sashimi or something. They can't do what. I'm not saying they don't want to do that, but that's, they get to have fun at their pop-up.
Sounds like a jamming session.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is, for a chef. It's a jamming session. And they can make some money, so that's the other point. So that's the other purpose of a pop-up, A lot of chefs, if you're not the executive chef, you're a sous or you're a line cook, and the pay grade is a big difference. So pop-ups can make, help them make extra money. So
whose original idea was this to do a pop-up?
I don't know. It was kind of like around the same time. So, and it's at the bar. So who knows?
And so
at that time, it was big in New York, because that's why we, kind of, hey, that's kind of cool. They do that in New York. Why don't we do this?
Yeah, and so your restaurant serve barbecue, which is kind of like a Texan thing. So
yes, definitely.
How would you add the Asian elements into your food? What would you say is the Asian spice?
again, that's just Robbie, Kui, and I. We love to eat. Period, and not just Asian food. I mean, we love Iranian food, Indian food. We love everything. So, and we love messing around. Just testing stuff and tasting it. So, that's just kind of the way it evolved. I mean, we didn't set out to do a Thai sticky rib or a curry boudin or the Tic Nung pork belly. We didn't set out to do that. We just messed around and was like, hey, I wonder if pork belly will taste good with Tic Nung marinade. So we tried it and it was great. So.
And so would you say that with a start-off point, it's a foodie rather than a professional chef?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, because none of us are chefs.
Yeah. Do you think it allows you more space to be creative and more diverse with your food?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that being said, do you face any challenges to serve like this innovative food around here? How do people react to it?
Again, we're really lucky. We've actually been finding that, I'm not going to say everything, but so far, almost everything that we put out, even as a test run, it just gets great responses so far. I mean, people will put up, I'm just saying, for example, if I put up tomorrow, we're going to do, like our last sausage was Togarashi Shishido pepper sausage. People will see it on Instagram and they just come. So we've been lucky.
Yeah. And so when you were like building up the menu, do you have any target population that you are working towards?
We just everybody. We try to target everybody. Again, we're from Alief, so it's very diverse. So again, we try to target everybody. Bel Air, where we're located, is actually a pretty diverse area too, and it's just super close to Alief, to Chinatown too. So I know, at least from my standpoint, I feel like Asians in general are one of the ethnicities that are just really good about supporting other Asians. I feel that way,
And so that being said, are you involved in many activities of the Asian community?
Honestly, before the virus stuff that's going on right now, honestly, I wasn't. But like I said, when it happened, I just feel like, we got to try, so.
Yeah. So can you tell us more about your involvement?
I have a buddy, I've got a group of buddies that I basically approached that are in the business. They either own a restaurant or are involved with food. Like I asked my friend Tao that his family owns Kim Sun. He said, of course. My other friend Thomas Nguyen owns a restaurant called Peli Peli. So he's going to be involved with it. Our friend Chris Shepard, he's involved. Also Kate McLean, another chef, is involved. Who else did I bring on? Chris Wong from Ninja Ramen is involved. Debbie Chen from Shabu House is involved. She's also an attorney. She's also one of the chairpersons at the OCA. So I'm not necessarily trying to get all Asians. I'm just trying to get people that can get stuff done. And they're also passionate about all food, including Asian food. So especially our buddy Chris Shepard. So he's remember I mentioned that we were on that I brought them on Fox the other day. So they were all on there. And if you want the link, I'll give it to you. But there's other people that I'm gonna ask too, for some other ideas, because yeah, we got to do it fast.
So how do you identify yourself? Do you identify yourself as like a Taiwanese, American, Asian?
That's a tough one. I just tell people I'm a mutt. My mom was originally born in China, like a lot of people that are from Taiwan. She was born in Hubei, in China, along with all of her brothers, and then they went to Taiwan during the war. Then my dad's side, my dad's father was from Guangdong, and then came here, I think, in the 20s, where he met my grandmother in Tennessee, and then, had my dad.
And so so I know we talked about how we love food and being a foodie and stuff like that. Do you have like a specific favorite dish that we?
Man, for Chinese food, my favorite dish is beef noodle soup. Easy. A Thai probably. That and hung shao rou. Those two things. Man, for American food, that's tough. That's really tough. For Mexican food, easy. So it's a good taco. For Vietnamese food, that's a really hard one.
Too many.
Too many, but probably just really good pho. I love pho. I love pho more than ramen, honestly.
Yeah.
It's better.
Yeah. And so, do you imagine how like the future changes? Do you think that there will be changes in the future taste, like how people will prefer the food?
Yeah, honestly, yeah, because I've actually been really pleasantly surprised at our restaurant. I don't know what my brother said, because I mean, I'm up at the front, so I get to see everybody's reaction from day one. So honestly, when we first opened up in Bel Air, I honestly kind of felt like people were kind of, I don't want to say against us, because I feel like that's too strong, but reluctant. I'll say reluctant. So I'll give you an example. So when we first opened, the first month, I noticed a lot of older people there. They would say stuff like, "Are you sure that opening your barbecue in Bel Air was a good idea?" And I was just thinking, what kind of question is that, right? But they were like, well, we have 3 barbecues, really close by, and there actually really is. There's 2 or 3 barbecues within 3 blocks. But the thing I noticed about the Bel Air area is they're just fiercely loyal, which is a great thing. So a lot of those people that I'm giving you an example of, they ended up being like, oh, wow, I love your barbecue. But like I said, they were just very reluctant. They were like, man, I hope your barbecue's... Those are the same people that said, man, I hope your barbecue is good, because, that barbecue down the block, they've been there 30 years. It's really good, Like, I don't want to say that I felt like they wanted us to fail, but that's why I use the word reluctant. Yeah, I don't think that they felt like it was going to be that good. I think that's what I really mean to say.
And so what was your thought process about that? Did you come up with any strategy to like help gain the customer or anything like that?
I'd love to say that we did. Honestly, we're just really lucky. I used to be a party promoter before we were in the bar business. So I'm a more what do you call it? Hands-on, person to person. That's my type. I'm a people person, right? And I think that helps. So I went out a lot and met people. But with the restaurant, I feel like we were really lucky because even though people were like, wow, Blood Brothers just opened, the restaurant's only been open a month, there's also a lot of people that kind of were like, yeah, well, yeah, they just opened the restaurant, but they've been around a long time because we did events for 5 years, once a month. So if you think about it from that aspect, we've been around a while. So what I mean by that is that's why I think us opening, we were lucky that we didn't really have to go crazy with advertising and marketing. I guess that's what I mean. And like I said, we're lucky. Robbie's always stayed pretty active, very active on social media, which these days you have to do.
Yeah.
It's essential.
Is that more effective than traditional advertising, you'd say?
I don't know about more important, but just as important, I would say. I don't know. These days, maybe more important, honestly, because people are right here, right now, nowadays, especially young people. Older, and that's another thing that, I'm glad you brought that up. It's crazy to see a 75-year-old person, doing this. No, I mean, I expect to see young people doing that, but now old people do that. So that tells you the times now.
So how would you identify the demographics of your customers?
That's interesting too. I would say probably 40% is over 60 years old, and then the other 60 is 25 to 45.
So
But a big portion is older. And part of the reason is Bel Air has got a lot of older folks. It does.
So the 20-something-year-olds are the ones doing the Instagrammable experiences that help broadcast your food photos.
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely.
Oh, going back to the question regarding food, what do you think of like other kind of fusions? For example, like ramen burgers. Have you tried that?
I haven't tried it, to be honest with you, but I don't know if that's a fair question for me because I'm not really a ramen head. I do like ramen. I don't love ramen. Like I love pho. I love bumbawe. I love beef noodle soup. Maybe it's because I haven't had a phenomenal bowl of ramen. If I did, then maybe I would think differently. But I did have some pretty good ramen in New York at Apudo. It was pretty good, but I mean it wasn't life changing. Like I really love pho, like a good bowl of pho. Actually, I had it last night. I had pho, but.
So has there been any ideas to expand or franchise or work with another?
Not yet. Yeah.
So
Maybe in a few years, we'll see.
And so, are there any like food cultures that you see are very potential but are still not like widely recognized enough?
And something that I would like to see more in Houston because it's so hot, 9 months of the year. That's kind of the reason why I think there's so many dessert places that can survive in Houston. But I wish there was like more Vietnamese like dessert places, like Jia and all that stuff. I'm surprised there's not more in Houston. And then same thing with the Chinese shaved ice. I think there should be more I think they would do good.
So you seem to be very interested in Vietnamese food.
Oh yeah, I
So
love Vietnamese
was your
food.
friend Quy the one who brought it to you?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, we went to school with tons of Vietnamese people, so I have tons of Vietnamese friends, and all three of us love Vietnamese food. So
Yeah. And so as a
I've dated a few Vietnamese girls too. So
Mhm. Yeah, so as a business owner, do you have any advice for the future generations who like interested in starting a business?
yeah, opening any business is hard and stressful, and you got to put in a lot of hours. But restaurant is a different animal. It's definitely long hours, and I guess depending on the size of the restaurant, I think the thing that separates a restaurant maybe than a I guess a conventional if there's another conventional business is I guess um, being able to manage everybody's different duties, like in the kitchen. I think that's you know I mean, of course I say that because I've never done a restaurant, but I think that was the biggest thing for me to get used to at the restaurant, because if you're in the kitchen, everybody's has to, like, I don't want to say master their own duty or their own station, but it's just what is the word I'm looking for? You just have to communicate super well in the kitchen. Yeah, I think that's what I mean.
And so in terms of like communication with your colleagues or like your partners, I would say, how would you describe the way that you communicate with your brother and your friend inside the kitchen, inside the restaurant?
Well, I'm actually only in the kitchen one night a week. So, I mean, I can't really speak too much about being back in the kitchen because I don't spend enough time back there. And mainly that's because I don't want to mess up the flow. I mean, in all seriousness. Because if it's super busy and I mess, take away somebody's attention from something, it can be catastrophic in a restaurant. That's why they call back of the house. The kitchen is back of the house, and then front of the house is me, the floor.
So
Because
okay.
no, it's fine.
So how would you describe the different management styles between you and your brother?
Well, in the kitchen, there's a lot more people to deal with, so that's why the communication thing. So honestly, I'm lucky. At least at our restaurant, the way our restaurant's situated, it's a lot easier because there's nobody in the that I really have to worry about in the front except the cashier, Quee's cutting. But I mean, they've got their own section, so it's actually I have the least stress, unless the phone is ringing off the hook, which sometimes it is, and it drives me crazy.
It's good business.
Yeah, definitely. It's just something that comes with the territory. You got to do it. It's a good thing people are calling, right? So.
They're calling to. I think at the library.
Okay.
In half an hour.
Okay.
Anyway, so are the other two restaurants, barbecues, are they still in business?
Yes, they are.
Oh.
Yeah.
How would you say your status is comparing to the other two?
I don't know. That's the thing. We've never been there before. I've never been there before. I can't speak for my brother, for Quy, but me, honestly, we spend so much time at work. Like, We don't want to be around the restaurant. Like my favorite place, whenever I'm off is Chinatown. That's, if we all cook a lot. But, before the whole, coronavirus stuff, I probably only go out to eat once a week. The rest of the time I cook. But, obviously the last month I've been going to Chinatown as much as possible. This is the most I think I've ever eaten out in my life. Like 3 or 4 times a week. Because, just trying to help out Chinatown. But, yeah, that's it.
And so how would you the restaurant decide what they should put on the menu? Like, do you have it tried out? Or
Yeah.
do you come up with something new?
Yeah. Yeah, we basically we'll try it out together. If Kui has an idea about something or Robbie has an idea, they'll just mess around with it, and then we'll taste it. We'll let the rest of the staff taste it, give their honest opinion. If it doesn't have enough of something or too much of this, too much of that, we'll even give it to some of our hardcore regulars that come a lot, because they come so much, and we know they'll give us an honest opinion, and then we'll put it on the menu. If it gets a good response, we keep it on the menu. If it doesn't, take it off. And so far, knock on wood, been lucky. Almost all of them have stayed on the menu. The only thing we took off the menu was our spam musubi. Not because it wasn't good. I just think, some things are just timing.
What is that?
You know what spam is? Right? So in Hawaii, they have a dish called spam musubi. It's spam, steamed rice. Some people put an egg in it and then wrapped with seaweed with furikake seasoning on it. But spam isn't good for you. It's has a lot of preservatives. So the spam thing that we made, it's made of real stuff. It's not bad for you, But we call it that because that's what they call it in Hawaii.
Sure. So, I'm curious, is there a price that you would let the franchise buy out your restaurant?
We haven't even thought about that yet. No idea. We haven't gotten that far.
No franchise made any offers yet, I guess. No franchise has made any offers yet, I guess.
No, I don't think so.
So what would be your advice to young restaurateurs or entrepreneurs?
Get as much experience in the restaurant as possible, in all aspects of the business. Behind the line in the kitchen, next to somebody with as much experience, just so you can be a sponge, Just be a sponge. That's the only way you learn stuff, is repetition,
And do you see your role being, say, replaced by a robot in the foreseeable future?
I don't know. Could be. Hope not, but could be.
And how do you see technology, like you brought up social media a lot, has changed the way that the restaurants are playing in the field?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess that could become a factor with barbecue. I think barbecue is a little bit more communal, I guess, than a normal restaurant. I don't know if I can say that or not. So I think people want the real people-to-people interaction, Like something like ramen. I don't, I know I hate to use just ramen as an example, but I keep thinking about Japan and the little booth where they just eat. You know what I mean?
Ichiran ramen.
Yeah. I guess we could do that at the barbecue, but
Yeah, so do you feel that there's anything that we haven't covered that is important to you?
Do you want to talk about Keith, who is?
Sure. Or my parents.
Yeah.
I feel like our parents were definitely a huge help to the restaurant. Obviously, Qui's parents too. I mean, both of our parents still work. They have not retired. They're workaholics. Qui's parents are. My mom is 74. I think Qui's parents are at least 3 or 4 years older than my parents. They still work 6 days a week. They do jewelry. Yeah, they definitely deserve credit for the restaurant too, because they were supportive from day one. Both of our families. So, my stepdad, I don't know if my brother brought it up or not, but my stepdad literally hand built all the furniture in the restaurant. He has some property in Giddings, which is like kind of in between here and Austin. And he literally took the trees out of the ground, cut it into pieces, and made our furniture. Tables, all the wood trim in the restaurant. So that's he took a few years doing it. So he did a lot of work. So they deserve a lot of credit.
Incredible.
Yeah. So when y'all come to the restaurant, you can see.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So have you tried Beyond Meat, which is a vegetarian?
I haven't. I'm not against doing it. I just haven't had a chance to do it. I'm too busy eating pho.
Is there any fusion between other cuisine that you mentioned? Like you said, you like Iranian food, Indian food, that you can possibly bring into your menu?
I mean, I think that there's definitely other stuff that will go good with barbecue. I mean, there's definitely stuff that I don't think will work with barbecue too, because not everything tastes good smoked. Like for example, our friend Kaiser, who has a restaurant called Himalaya, he's done some stuff that with barbecue with smoked meat, and it's really good. So I think also Ramen Tatsuya in Montrose. I think they've done some stuff with barbecue too. And we've done a few, at least one or two collaborations with ramen place too, with Tiger Den. So I mean, there's definitely stuff, and then there's a kind of a new movement right now in Texas where they do barbecue with a kind of Mexican twist,
And your brother mentioned this film you guys are doing, the cook show.
Yes,
Are
yes.
you involved in that?
Yeah, that actually already passed. Yeah, we haven't put it on social media because they said not to tell anybody. But yeah, it's gonna be on, I think, in summer. They said. Yeah. Even there's some dishes that Robbie is working on that we haven't put on the menu yet. I think it was brisket chow fun. It was pretty good.
Yeah, he mentioned that.
Yeah, that one was really good. And there's a few sausages that we're gonna work on next. Some Korean one, some like Thai Lao, you know. We might even mess around and try and do Nam, maybe. We'll see. There's some flavors that, you know, we don't mess with because, you know, people may not be ready for it. But I don't know. Some of our clientele surprise me sometimes. They really do. Sometimes I'll be like, no, they're not gonna like this, and they like it. I'm like, wow. I'm shocked.
Like what? Just for example.
Like sometimes when I mention the sour Thai sausage, like I don't really know any non-Asian people that like that, you know. And when I mentioned it, I still remember mentioning it to one of our regulars, and he said, "Oh man, I love that." I was like, "What? Really?" I was just surprised. I was surprised.
So when, say, New York Times and you said the Smithsonian, when they came in, did you know that they're the food critic? Or?
No.
And you were there, right?
Yeah, I was there. The Smithsonian one, if I remember right, they were suggested, or we were suggested to Smithsonian from somebody at GQ, I think, is a story, something like that. Honestly, most of these they contact Robbie because he's the one that answers the main web email. So he's the one that usually got all these, you know, email inquiries.
Having dealt with so many customers, did you have a sense like a customer is coming as a critique or they're just regular?
There's a few that you can tell. Honestly, most of them I couldn't tell, except for the famous ones where you know their face.
Right.
Like when the Texas Monthly guy came. Yeah, we saw him and we got really nervous. But luckily he liked it. So, and he was really nice. So that was fun. That was fun.
Will you be willing to share if any like crazy experience, for example, bad reviews, if you had any of them?
Yeah. Let me see. There was a lady that left a crazy review. I can't remember what it was though. It was. Oh, I know what it was. Yeah, so it was this lady that obviously had like a crazy fake profile, obviously. I think she put what kind of business is this if they run out of food by 3:00, and so basically she left a real long review, you know, saying that we're not a real restaurant. If we were a real restaurant, we wouldn't close at 3, basically. And she just kept reviewing that just over and over for like a month. And the funny thing is it was obvious that it was just somebody that was just hating. It was just basically it was obvious that she never tried to come. Do you know what I mean? She would put, I went there at such and such time, and they were sold out. And we pay attention to our social media. We're like, she wasn't here. What is she talking about? So it's just basically false, just made up. So eventually it stopped, but that's what comes to mind.
Did you guys do anything regarding that?
No.
You can't take out reviews that are fake.
Well, no. We didn't do anything about it. There was another older lady. I mean, this wasn't a review, but there was an older lady that complained about our sausage being raw, which is totally impossible because the process of doing sausage, it's cooked twice. It's not raw, you know. We temp everything, you know, before it comes into, and it's not raw. That's all I'll say, it's not raw. But, you know, you can't, it's just like the saying goes, you cannot please every single person. You're not going to, it's impossible, you know. Whether it's because they come in your front door with a preconceived, you know, idea of what your food is going to be like, you know, there's just going to be some people you just can't satisfy them. All you can do is try.
Yeah, and I guess those are like very interesting stories with running a restaurant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
Yeah, as much as we wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it was helpful. I mean,
Definitely, yeah.
we've never run a restaurant before, so, I mean, we're not experts literally on anything. We're beginners.
Yeah, these are really inspiring
Yeah,
stories.
thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry, the library is closing.
No,